Hey, what is poppin', y'all? It is your boy Guardy3, and welcome to Coffee and Sports, the morning show. And of course, joining us just like every morning, he is the anchor of the morning show. He is Mo Betta. How you doing, Mo?
Hey, good morning, Brett. Good morning, chat. Let's get into it.
Well, I don't think there is a lot of people happier than us last night, Mo. The NBA season is officially back.
Oh yeah.
And we got started off with very much a classic of a game. OKC, Houston, it did, couldn't get it done in one overtime. It took two. But OKC did barely pull it out last night. And I'm not going to lie. I was shocked at the ending of that game. I would think of all people, Mo, Kevin Durant would know to stay down on a Shea pump fake, but he got baited, and Shea hit a couple of free throws to ice the game. What did you think about that first game that we got last night?
Well, look, it's opening night, and I think both teams were trying out different lineups. Obviously, the Rockets started off with a really big lineup. I would say throughout the game, you could tell that the Thunder were experimenting a lot. They did this a lot last year in the postseason, putting Alex Caruso on bigs, and he was effective at times against certain bigs. What I was impressed with last night, though, is whenever Caruso switched and got on Alfred Sengun, with no hesitation, Sengun attacked him, and he showed the difference that I'm a much bigger man than you. Like, he didn't hesitate to put his weight and power into him, either back him down or spin off of him and attack the basket. And I thought OKC would make adjustments to that, but they never did. They really did believe at some point Alex Caruso was going to slow him down, and it never really happened. Um, I think the Rockets were a really good defensive team last year, but they weren't as consistent offensively. And this year, and granted, we're still talking about game one, so I think they will change some things. I think the offense might be a little bit more fluid, but the defense, at least in game one, the defense wasn't great. And I know they won they lost the game and they controlled most of this game, Brett. But who's going to be that perimeter stopper outside of Amen Thompson? Because I thought that it wasn't that OKC didn't have a lot of opportunities. They missed a lot of wide open shots. I think Houston defense was okay at best, but between Lou Dort and Alex Caruso, they missed well over 12 wide open shots. So I think Houston's going to have to tighten up what they do defensively. I was impressed with Sengun. KD was KD, efficient. I would have liked him to take more shots and be a little bit more aggressive. Amen Thompson looked good. I thought Reed Shepherd played well in spurts. OKC won because they had a big run in the fourth quarter. SGA woke up, and obviously he did his thing by being aggressive, getting to the foul line. It was a good first night. An opening night, you're excited. What you want is a really competitive game. We got a really competitive game. I like I said, I think both of these teams are trying different things out. Remember, OKC's without J-Dub, so they've got to make some adjustments and find somebody else to help generate a little bit more offense. And Houston doesn't have Van Fleet for the whole season, so they are going to be experimenting. My concern is that when you play that big a lineup and you try to have different guys be playmakers, and I said this on yesterday's show, you're going to get turnovers because they're not all natural playmakers. And look, Houston controlled the game, but what ended up happening between Sengun, KD, and Amen Thompson, they had over 12 turnovers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You could tell at the end of the game that they were missing like a real point guard, especially on that last Reed Shepherd turnover where he tried to force it into KD with no passing angle. So I will say the one thing that like I said, I enjoyed watching the game last night. The thing with the Houston Rockets offense is I really hope that they, slowly incorporate more motion and more cutting. Because I felt like it was a little too ISO heavy and ISO stagnant last night. I feel like when you have a team with guys like Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, and just a lot of young legs, even like Jabari Smith, get them going, to the basket, and the good things will happen. When we have Amen Thompson shooting 7 threes,
wow, crazy.
probably not the best use of him. But, that being said, it is game one. I'm willing to, let them have some time to work out the kinks. But, yeah, no, I just hope going forward there's a little bit more movement because I don't think this team really has good enough consistent shooting to just be a stagnant, hey, ISO and everybody else to spot up sort of a team.
I think that was the concern that we had when we spoke about this yesterday, that if you don't have a real point guard to get everybody in their spots, what you're going to get is a lot of ISO action from KD. There's ISO action. That's Şengün, primarily just ISO action. They do have to get a lot of more ball and body movement just to open up the floor more and give them different opportunities. Everything can, like you said, I look at that roster. I don't think they have a lot of shooting. That was a concern. Like, yes, you upgraded by getting Kevin Durant. But overall, the concern with Houston is, do they have enough perimeter shooting?
Say, what's good, Jory and Carmike? Glad to see you guys up in here. Yeah, no, absolutely. And say I know all those guys can score, but being a scorer and being a shooter are sometimes just two completely different things.
True.
I will say it's funny. Carmike touched on that too. That last shot, be right before the game went into overtime. I really was not a fan of it going to Şengün there. I was like, come on, this is exactly what you signed KD for. He's got to have that last shot. I like Şengün if he's closer to the basket, but as soon as he caught that thing on the elbow, I'm like, oh, this is going to be the biggest break of the century, isn't it? Because that's normally not him, just be able to catch, turn around, and fire like that. So that shot, it felt like a moment where I'm like, that thing just has to make it to KD somehow.
Agreed.
Say the Thunder. It's so funny too with the Thunder. Shea didn't even really get going until the fourth quarter, but
right.
My goodness, when he turned up, it was truly impressive. Say, especially when a men went out and they had to put Reed Sheppard in the game for long stretches after that. Say, poor Reed, he just got absolutely hunted by Shea. It was one of those. He tried his best, but there's just absolutely nothing he could do in the fourth once Shea just started hitting all the shots.
Yeah, I like I said, it was an entertaining game, and there wasn't a lot of great shot making maybe till late in the game. But if you're a fan of the NBA, that game gave you what you wanted. Outside of being a Rockets fan, but like it was fun to watch. It was a good opening night game. It was definitely a lot better than the second game.
Yeah, in the second game, though, I think it went exactly how, we said it was going to go yesterday. It talked about how the Lakers are going to have the best player in Luka, but the problem would be the Warriors would probably have about the next 5 best players. So I think that's kind of what ended up happening in that second game. Lakers, Warriors, Luka just dominated. Austin Reeves came along for the ride, but after that, there just wasn't a whole lot from the supporting cast, and the Warriors were still able to walk away with a win.
Yeah, look, if you're a Lakers fan, the concern before the game would be, never mind where they're going to get offense from, Luka's going to be able to draw people to him. Do they have enough shooting around him? I didn't think they had enough shooting before the season started. I still don't think they have enough shooting. It showed in the game. And look, we can give Luka all the credit in the world. I think he had like 43, 12, and 9. So a big statistical game. But what no one talks about is on the other end of the floor, Golden State got whatever shot they wanted because they kept involving Luka in a lot of their actions, right? And what hasn't changed, whether he's in good shape or not, he's not a good defender. And he and Austin Reeves got hunted the whole night. And it's not like Golden State shot the lights out. They shot the 3-ball well, but Steph didn't have a really big night. I think he was like 6 for 14. And Jimmy Bucket shot well, but where Jimmy Butler killed you at was his ability to draw fouls. 16 free throw attempts. That's crazy. Just between Steph and Jimmy Butler, Golden State shot 24 free throws. And so I think the Lakers' problems are twofold. Not enough shooting on offense, and defensively, they're still not any good. At least in game one. Again, I don't want to press the panic mode. They might turn around and become a lockdown defense. I don't think that happens overnight. But look, we said this. Luka's going to do his thing. The question will be, is somebody else going to come along for the ride? And I thought Austin Reeves was good. But for a guy who turned down the contract the Lakers offered him to bet on himself, he can't afford to be just good because he's betting on himself. He's trying to get $160, $180 million contract. So I know he's a number 3, but while LeBron's gone, he's got to be a legitimate number 2.
It felt like one of the biggest problems for the Lakers last night is it didn't matter who was in the game at center. They just looked absolutely lost anytime a pick and roll was called. Like, DeAndre Ayton looked like he went to the Enes Kanter school of pick and rolls because I don't think he had any clue once the screen was set what he was doing, which led to him being out of position and just a lot of bad fouls by LA. I'd say the less Jackson Hayes plays, the better, but it was just such an awkward thing watching them play defense because it was just any time a pick and roll was called, that was pretty much 2 points one way or the other, whether it's on the line or a walk-up midi, because the centers just looked like they just had no clue what they were doing at all last night.
You know what? I tried not to have overly high expectations for a guy like DeAndre Ayton, but we can't treat him like he's in year 2 or year 3 of his career. He makes the kind of mistakes defensively that you would say a first or second year player would make. Just being missing rotations. He tried to do show and recovery, and he overshowed, and they were beating him back. Like he was lost, like you said, on all pick and roll. Him and Jackson Hayes. The only difference is Jackson Hayes got lost with a lot more energy, but he was still lost. I can't say I'm disappointed in the Lakers big men because for what they're known for between the two of them, I'm not so sure you didn't get exactly who they've been their whole career.
What's up, Cool? Yeah, we hey, I gotta call gotta respect Jackson open tryout Hayes. That was still probably the funniest comments I've ever seen from someone this week. You saw his comments about open tryouts for the Olympics, right?
Who, Jackson Hayes?
Yeah.
No, I did not see that.
Oh, he was talking about how the Olympic team should have open tryouts because pretty much he wants to have a chance to make the team. I'm like, buddy, even if they did have open tryouts, I don't even know if they're letting you in the gym.
Yeah, I don't, unless they need like a roadie. You know what I mean? Like somebody got to carry the bags. Yeah, I look. I love the confidence. But if he played at his optimum level, the very best version of Jackson Hayes, that would just get you cut the next day.
Yeah, it was the funniest thing ever. he was talking about, well, I'm gonna go try to get citizenship somewhere else overseas because Team USA doesn't have an open tryout. So I'd love to play in the Olympics. I'm like, I mean, fair, but also I just don't think it really matters if Team USA has an open tryout or not.
Hey,
Your open tryout is the regular season.
right. Let him get citizenship somewhere else. That benefits us.
Say barbecue chicken.
No doubt.
Say, yeah, said second game. Very, very fun with very fun, Lucas show though. He offensively, at least he's still got it offensively after losing all that weight.
No question. No question. And look, ultimately, do I think that Luka's going to be able to keep the Lakers afloat? I think he will. I think he will. He went up against a team that, even though it's an older team, you are talking about a team with arguably, I would say, not even arguably, they have 3 Hall of Famers on that team, so they know how to play basketball. They all have super high basketball IQs, and we didn't really get into it. But I would say that the main reason Golden State won last night, it wasn't because of the bigger names. It was because of the games that Golden State got from Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga. That's why they won.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was the perfect storm for Golden State. It was the perfect night for those two to get cooking. They absolutely needed every bit of offense they can to overcome the Lakers last night. Going forward, it feels like that's going to be what the biggest thing with the Lakers going forward. Can they get more out of the role players like Ayton, Laravia, Smart? So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly them in the future though. It should be a fun team to watch, especially if Luka's going to go supernova every other game.
Yeah, look, I'm signing up for the roller coaster ride. I think that over the course of the season, I think a guy like Jake LaRavia will get more playing time.
Yeah, did you hear they asked Cat how he would fit into the new offense, and he said he don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they asked Cat how he fits into the Mike Brown offense, and he says, I don't know. And to me, that's kind of concerning. Like your second, like arguably, your highest paid player just has no clue how he's going to fit into the offense. Now I'm really going to be like watching this Knicks game closely because I want to see if there's any confusion or if he knows what he's doing out there.
Look, in the Mike Brown system, though, it allows for multiple guys to have the opportunity to make plays as a playmaker, especially the center, right? Mike Brown likes to play through his center. And so I think that's weird that Cat doesn't know what he's going to do. Like, people forget that when he was with the Timberwolves, I think Karl-Anthony Towns averaged over 4 assists a game, multiple seasons. So he is a capable passer. And in the Mike Brown system, I think that'll make him an even better passer. But the fact that he doesn't know where he's going to be or what his role is in the offense, if you're a Knicks fan, how is that not concerning? I think the Mike Brown system will make the offense better, but I have concerns that they won't be nearly as good defensively.
Yeah. Say Cat not going to do nothing but be a 7'3" shooting guard. He's not wrong. That's exactly what Cat likes to do. But yeah, I would love to see if, especially a lot of the times in the Mike Brown offense, I know you like to get Sabonis going near the elbow and like the low, the blocks, and I'd love to see that with Cat just simply because he's a lot better of a scorer than Domantas Sabonis, ever has been. So
right,
it should be interesting, and I'm hoping that he continues on with like at least the post touches and the elbow touches get him closer to the basket because I don't want to see Cat only floating at the perimeter this year. She's still so talented in the post. I hope they work to get him some closer touches this year.
No, I agree. And look, let's not forget that on top of the team, the core that they're bringing back, they did address their bench or their lack of depth. So don't forget, I believe they got Yabusele, who I've always been a big fan of. And then you got Jordan Clarkson, someone who's kind of been known for being an instant offensive guy. So I think those are good pickups. It's just a matter of how they get incorporated into the system.
Jalen Brunson for MVP. Possible.
I mean, I can't say it's not on the table. I certainly think he's going to be an MVP candidate. But I think we talked about this on N1 last week. But we can always get into it again. I'm gonna say I'm thinking Paolo. I'm thinking Giannis. I might even think Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson might be neck and neck where they're going to place, but I don't put either one of them ahead of Paolo or Giannis.
And then obviously in the West, still Jokic and Shea are always a threat.
And look, you might be right. A lot of people said that they wouldn't throw out the possibility of Wemby being league MVP. I'm on board as a Wemby fan. I don't know if he's going to have the type of season where he's going to overtake Jokic and Shea.
It's going to be tough because I'm not sure if the team record will be there this year.
No, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but you're right. If let's say they win 48 games, but Denver and OKC are in the upper 50s, right? Not to mention the numbers that those two guys are going to put up. The only justification for Wemby would be that he would be so dominant on defense to go with his offense that you'd have to look at him like Wemby could lead the league in blocks and be a DPOY candidate. Like we all assume he's going to be that every year, right, for his whole career. That's a possibility, but they do have to be a good team. And I already said I think the Spurs are going to make the playoffs because even though they're young, they have immense talent. And look, De'Aaron Fox he's one of their vets. He's a 26, 27-year-old vet, but he's still one of their vets. Devin Vassell is one of their vets, another 25, 26-year-old. And then you've got a guy like Harrison Barnes, who's a good locker room guy. Look, I think they have enough vets in that locker room to rein in that young talent. But barring injury, and we always have to say this, there's no doubt in my mind San Antonio is going to make the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. I don't doubt that. It's just going to be a challenge because obviously when it comes to a team like OKC, for example, they're a very real threat to win over 60 games. You have Denver's probably going to win in the high 50s, and then of course Orlando could very well win in the mid to high 50s as well. Like, I think they're going to make the playoffs too. It's just like some of these other guys I'm looking at MVP candidates. It's like, all right, it's going to be hard to look past Shea if the Thunder win 60, 65 games. If the Nuggets win almost 60, or the Magic win like 55, that's going to be it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, I think, for Wemby this year because at the end of the day, he has some young, talented supporting cast, but these young, talented supporting casts, they're going to need some time to develop too. So I think MVP Wemby is on the table. I'm going to guess for next year. It is probably going to be the year he starts. Give guys like Castle another year, give Harper the time to get his feet wet, and that's when I think you really start to see the Spurs team take off.
Harper's unique. I could be wrong, but my feeling on watching Dylan Harper is he plays like someone who's like a 4 or 5 year vet. You know what I mean? Like he plays at his own pace, always on control. He seems to be a step ahead of everybody else. And then you've got the explosiveness of a guy like Castle. Yeah, I get it. Look, like I said, I didn't have Wemby win an MVP, but I do think the way the Spurs are set up, they're going to be a scary team for the next 5 or 6 years.
No, fair enough. Saying people still underrate the crap out of De'Aaron Fox. I went on it was weird because I went on Twitter and the first thing I saw was somebody post, is De'Aaron Fox making this pass, and it was Castle throwing a basic lob to Wemby. I'm like, the Spurs would have traded for him and gave him a max contract if he couldn't throw a lob at this point in his career. And it was funny because some guys were like, well, he never threw lobs in Sacramento. I'm like, his lob threat was Sabonis in Sacramento. Of course he's not throwing a ton of lobs. Say Sabonis isn't getting off the ground to get him. Why throw him?
Right. Look, is De'Aaron Fox the Chris Paul archetype for a point guard? No, he's closer to, even though their skill sets are different, he's closer to a Steph Curry or Damian Lillard. He's a scoring point guard. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just what he is. He's not the guy that's going to sit there and run your offense and average 12 points a game and 9 assists. That's not who he is. He is a scorer. He's a shoot first point guard. And in a league that stresses shooting, it's also a league that stresses shot creation. And De'Aaron Fox is one of the great shot creators in the NBA. He has great value. I had a conversation with a few guys, and we were talking about if Harper and Castle develop at an accelerated rate, and they are who everybody projects them to be, is De'Aaron Fox truly part of the Spurs' future, or is he more of a placeholder until they develop? Meaning, do I think De'Aaron Fox is going to be a member of the Spurs 3 years from now? If they develop at the rate that people project them to develop, I don't think he's going to be a member of the Spurs.
I don't think so either. That when you get all the point guards, like if Castle develops, I think Castle can develop into like a Drew Holiday type player, possibly if his shot creation comes along a little more. But I think he could very well do that at a high end. And Harper's game reminds me a ton of Jalen Brunson, the way he just stops and goes and just controls his body. It's just very Brunson-like. If those two develop like to the absolute max of their potential, then yeah, they're not going to be able to afford to just pay to keep 3 point guards in town. So I think Fox would be the odd man out at that point.
Right. And look, by the way, I'm a De'Aaron Fox fan, so this isn't about him. This is more about the economics of the NBA. If those two develop and they're what you want them to be, it wouldn't make sense to have him at the price tag that he comes with, knowing down the line you would have to pay them. That's just common sense. You're better off moving him and bringing in another asset.
Oh, absolutely. Bring in like an extra forward.
Yeah. Facts. Look, and look, everything we're saying is projection. Right now, today, within this season, De'Aaron Fox is a key member of the Spurs. And I think he's going to be a part of a Spurs team that will make the playoffs and may be a tough out. Look, if they keep developing, as they develop, the Spurs get better. That's just how young a team they are. And that's just how young a core they have. Don't forget, we just kind of dismissed the fact that Wemby is still developing. He's nowhere near as good as he's gonna be, right? He's not even touching the surface of what he's gonna be when it's all said and done.
No, absolutely. And to say theoretically, if there is a De'Aaron Fox trade, that's not for another like 2 or 3 years from now, probably. So we're gonna get plenty of time to watch Fox and Wemby all ball out together before they even have to make a choice, because Castle, Harper, both still on rookie contracts. So I highly doubt that it would pretty much be almost up until Fox's contract is up, then they'd have to make a choice on him. So I'm happy about that. I'm excited to see those two work together this year. I was hyped to see them last year, and then of course the injuries got to them. So
right.
This year, I think the Spurs will be a fun watch. It's a good question, Carmike. What are our NBA picks tonight? Why don't we go through the list of games tonight real quick, and we'll pick some winners. It's going to be we got the Bucks season opener. Chris Middleton's return to Milwaukee. Bucks Wizards. So it should be an emotional night. I'm happy that Christian's going to probably get a really great video tribute, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Mo, who do you got? Do you got the Bucks or the Wizards?
Now I'm convinced the Bucks are going to win. They're going to do the Chris Middleton video tribute, and that's going to set Kyle Kuzma off. No, I'm kidding. Look, it's in week 1, game 1 of an 82-game season. A lot of wild things can happen. Look, in week 5 in this earlier in the season. But what I will say is, I think the Bucks will find a way to win. I do think if you looked at both of these teams objectively, and I think you can appreciate this, talent-wise, Washington actually has more talent. They do, talent-wise. What Milwaukee has is they have Giannis in the discussion.
I like Milwaukee's top end talent. Love Giannis. Love Miles Turner. We just signed AJ Green to a 4-year, $45 million extension. Love that. I think the talent level of Milwaukee just sometimes gets skewed for me because I always look at the roster like, all right, Giannis, great. AJ Green, love him. Turner, awesome. Kyle Kuzma, okay, I don't love that. So it sounds like, though, they're going to end up bringing Kuzma off the bench. So,
that's a good move.
Which, yeah, I'd say that is perfect. I know we were running that lineup that we ran last year in the playoffs with Giannis and 4 shooters. During preseason, it seems like that very well could be the starting lineup, which was Porter Jr., AJ Green, Gary Trent, Giannis, and Miles Turner this year. So I think that's the move. Obviously, surrounding Giannis with 4 shooters is just always a great move, and bring off guys like Kuzma off the bench to deal with second units, and probably the best thing for Milwaukee to do going forward.
No, I like that lineup. Space the floor out more, give Giannis more room to operate. If they can stay healthy, like I said, I think the Bucks are going to be one of the better teams in the East. It's just a matter of how far Giannis is going to be able to take them.
Yeah, Kuz. I'll say Clippers and Jazz. I'd say this one should be pretty easy, right? It's just straight up the Clippers.
It should be the Clippers, but I will say this: should they lose to the Jazz, that doesn't bode. And I know it's just game 1 of 82, but that doesn't bode well when you lose to a team that's destined to be a lottery team.
No, absolutely. And obviously, game 1 of an 82-game season, even with being an older team, this should be the game that you have the most energy for. This isn't game 70 and everybody's all worn out and tired. Even being an older team, this is game 1. You got to wake up for this one. So, yep, the AARP team I think should very well pull this out tonight.
I agree. I think the Clippers, like you said, we know they're an older team, but tonight, everybody got their legs.
No, absolutely. It'll be interesting. Obviously, I might have to check out this game later too. See how Ace Bailey looks.
I'm definitely. You know what? I don't plan on watching a whole lot of Utah Jazz basketball, but whenever I get a chance to, I do want to see what Ace Bailey looks like.
Yeah, so he looked good in Summer League, but we all know that there's a big difference between the talent in Summer League and the talent at the NBA, and he gets to go against Kawhi Leonard is almost a welcome to the NBA moment. So, game 1, Kawhi Leonard that has his legs under him, that's going to be a tough matchup for him.
And I want to see what Marketing does too, because I think this is a big year for him.
Look, I know Chris Paul is back, but I wouldn't say Lob City is back. They don't have the bigs for that.
Not to play the Lob City game, but I do like Big Z. He's come a long way. A really good basketball player.
Oh, absolutely. The fun part about the Clippers is they're going to get the full Brook Lopez experience. if Clippers win, all the Clippers fans will be saying this is their year, just like the Cowboys.
The Clippers do that every year. That's true. Every year.
Same. They'll get my favorite Brook Lopez play. One of his favorite shots is the trailing 3-pointer because it takes forever to get him down the court. So if you pass him as soon as he crosses half court for that above the break three, he's sending that thing. It's my least favorite shot he takes. So I love Brook. I am kind of happy that we're able to, upgrade to Miles Turner this year.
I think the Clippers are going to be one of the more intriguing teams all year long, just because that roster top to bottom is littered with familiar names. And look, we can talk about it as an older team, but man, if this older team can stay whole, they're actually going to be one of the better. I think they're going to be one of the scary teams in the West if they can stay whole.
Oh, absolutely. Say, one of the games of the night, Cavs Knicks. Say, obviously, these are two teams that are going to be battling for the top of the East throughout the year. Who do you got with this one, Mo?
My guess is most people favor the Knicks, but because I'm rooting for this guy in particular, I'm going to pick the Cavs because I want to see Lonzo in his new role because I think Lonzo Ball is the missing piece the Cavs desperately needed.
He's the perfect fit for that team too. I think a lot of the problems with the Cavs is obviously when Garland goes out, and even with him in the game, you just don't have a lot of defense in that backcourt. And I think Alonzo can come in and key moments and give you that, and can give you a good 15 to 20 minutes and play, make, and distribute, and most importantly, provide the defense that have been missing from that Cleveland backcourt all these years. So I love the Lonzo addition. And you know what? I agree. I actually was going to pick the Cavs too. It should be a fun back and forth game, but I think what's funny? I think the size of Mobley and Allen are just going to overload Cat at the rim. We got Mitchell Robinson out tonight. He's load managing. The funniest thing I've ever seen for a game one injury report, load management.
Really?
Yeah.
You're load managing the very first game of the season. You haven't played any games, and you need to induct load management.
Yeah, I had to do a double take when I saw the Knicks injury report. When I saw that, I'm like, look, I know Mitchell Robinson's ankles are paper mache at this point, but really, game one, we're doing this already?
It is crazy.
No,
go ahead.
No, I'd say, but I do think in order to beat a team like the Cavs, that they need Mitchell Robinson, and if he's not out there, then I just think that this is a team that's going to completely overwhelm them with size at the rim.
I agree. Look, I know we talk a lot about player development, and we're talking about guys like Amen Thompson and J-Dub. Another guy that I'm looking to take another leap in his development is Evan Mobley, right? Last year's DPOY, I think he's still going to be a dominant defender, but I want to see if he takes another step in terms of what he does with his offensive bag. I think that's important too. Like, we know what Donovan Mitchell is as the leading scorer of the Cavs. For me, for them to take that step to where they can actually win the conference and go to the finals, I think that so much of that is dependent on the elevation of Evan Mobley.
It looked good in preseason. I say normally I try not to take too much stock into preseason, but when I saw Evan Mobley's first three being a pull-up three, I'm like, oh, there we go. He adds a pull-up three to his game, or even just that little trailing three, look out, league. That would be terrifying, especially since he's been so good at shooting the three ball the past couple of years. Say it's been chilling at like around that 38-39% range from deep the last couple of years. So if he adds that little pull up three or even just trailing three, that would go a long way with him.
I agree. I also think that his extending his range makes Jarrett Allen a better player.
Okay, so I think this is interesting because I just don't think at the time that Lonzo was on the Lakers, you were really moving the needle ever for them. They were just not a good basketball team.
They weren't.
And here's the thing, though: people forget with the Bulls, he did move the needle, and the Bulls completely fell apart when he went down. Say when before Lonzo went down in that first season, they were first in the East. Say he was really just putting the offense together with Levine and DeRozan, and he made everything go for that team. And I think that was never more apparent that when Lonzo got hurt, that entire Bulls team just fell apart and were never the same after that. So I do think that he can still be a difference maker, but obviously he's not going to be some franchise changing talent. But I do think he can still be a positive difference maker for the Cleveland Cavaliers this year.
I agree. In a certain role, and I think they're going to have him like a 6-man. I think Lonzo Ball is still going to be an impactful player because he's a high level defender. He's turned himself into an effective 3-point shooter, and he's still a really good playmaker when necessary, especially in the open floor. People forget that, as you pointed out, when he was on the Bulls, it was his ability to push the ball and open up the floor that it kind of rubbed off on Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. They had 3 guys averaging over 5 assists a game in that starting lineup. That was because of Lonzo.
Lonzo's career got derailed because of LeVar talking he better than Jordan and LeBron.
I don't know about all that. I don't know about that, but yeah.
Hey, I'll give LeVar credit. He's kind of bowed out of the spotlight over the last couple of years and let his sons just play do the talking. So,
Which
you
is
know,
good.
got to look. A lot of people hate on LeVar. I can. Dude clearly is very passionate and cares about his sons and got them all into playing professional basketball. And
Facts.
LiAngelo still was at least had a nice hit as a rapper. So overall,
it's always that.
Yeah, say overall, can't argue with the results.
No, if your dad is your number one fan, I don't think that's a negative thing. Even if he's got a boisterous kind of personality. And look, I never agreed with Magic Johnson when the Lakers decided to draft Lonzo over Jason Tatum, because I just knew Tatum was the better player. Magic just had it in his mind that Lonzo Ball was going to be, because Lonzo is 6'7". People forget Lonzo's a full 6'7", that he was going to be similar to Magic. And I think Lonzo was always a good basketball player. So I want to get that out there. He was always a good basketball player. But when you draft someone that high, you need to draft someone that's going to be a great basketball player. And even before the injuries, Lonzo was going to be good, but he was never going to be great. He was never going to be a 6 or 7-time All-Star. He was never going to be a perennial All-NBA player. That he wasn't going to be that. He was really good. People forget with the Pelicans, but he was never that good. That's my thing. I had no problem with us drafting him, but if we were going to draft him, we should have drafted Tatum and drafted him later. That's just how my mind worked. You shoot for the moon, right? You shoot for the moon. I just thought Magic did a Magic thing, which is why he's not helping run the show anymore. But look, I'm a Lonzo fan, but I watched him at SC. And I saw his skill set, or UCLA. I saw his skill set. I thought he was going to be good no matter what. Like if you tell me what's his floor was going to be, he's going to be a really good player. The ceiling that people projected him to have, I didn't think that was ever there. But I think he's turned out to be a really good player, and I'm rooting for him. I want him to have that kind of finish to his career that a guy like Sean Livingston had to his career. You know what I mean? Like when you're a big piece, and maybe you're not the star, but you're an impactful player that helps your team win titles. I think Lonzo can be that guy.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And that's what I'm hoping for. He's one of those guys that it's unfortunate what he went through, and at this point you're just kind of rooting for him to have a strong, middle to end part of his career here with minimal injuries as possible.
Yeah, let him have those. Let him have like a 4 or 5 year run like Sean Livingston had at the end of his career, where he was able to help the Warriors win multiple titles. I love that. It's funny. Their skill sets are similar, except that Livingston works in the mid range and the mid post. Lonzo can actually extend his range beyond the arc. But in terms of their impact, I think Lonzo could do that for Cleveland. I think that he does provide defense that they're missing in that backcourt. And because he is 6'7", against certain lineups, you can play Garland, Mitchell, and Lonzo, because Lonzo can guard threes. So I think he gives them a versatility on both ends of the floor.
I wouldn't doubt if that ended up being one of their clutch time lineups, right? Especially if they need more defense. If there's one guy that he's not known for defense, it's DeAndre Hunter, who's currently their starter. So I could very well see, if it's a tight game in clutch time, that Lonzo does get that nod, because sometimes you need to stop. So when they want to go defense, yeah, I think you're going to see more Lonzo in the game than maybe DeAndre Hunter in those situations.
Let me ask you a question, because a friend of ours, our guy Aaron, who's a huge Sacramento fan, I'm just wondering, if you're a Kings fan, objectively, and you're looking at the moves they've made, the roster construction that they have, and then you add, even though he's going to walk into the Hall of Fame, you add a Russell Westbrook to a lineup that includes DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. What message are you sending your fan base in terms of what you've done with your roster construction?
I think the message to the fan base is, instead of lighting the beam, you might as well light that joint. It's going to be a long season, so just chill out and relax. It's not good. It just shows that we're destined to be mediocre. Like, that's what this team is. They're not good enough to tank, but they're not good enough to really do anything if they even make it to a play-in spot. And that's a huge if out in the West. So I was not a fan at all of that signing, because it's not that, Russ doesn't deserve to play. It's, if you're the Kings and you're the fans, what are you selling us on? Like, do you have a blue chip prospect to sell them on? No. Do you have a good enough team to, at least make a deep playoff run? No. Do you have a good enough team to make a play-in run? Probably not. So it's the worst kind of thing to see in all reality if you're a Kings fan, because this is the front office that's signaling, hey, we want to contend, but you look at the roster and you're like, where? How? This is a team that you're kind of telling us you want to contend, but you're nowhere near good enough to contend for anything. So I just think it's a really bad message to send, because it's almost buying into mediocrity, and it's going to be a long season for Kings fans.
I don't understand. I still never get over the De'Aaron Fox move, right? What you know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand the vision there. Like, when your front office, when your war room gets together and you strategize about how you want to make moves, add players, potential draft picks, the whole nine. I'm not telling people that De'Aaron Fox is a perfect player, but I am telling you, when you had him, you were more relevant. When you had him, he took you to the playoffs. You ain't been to the playoffs in a minute. And I'm looking at the Kings now, and I'm like, DeMar's 35, LaVine's got to be around 30. Russ is 36, 37. You're in the worst kind of NBA purgatory, because you don't even have high-end draft picks, and the guys you could trade, not a lot of people are knocking on the door and looking to acquire them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand what you're doing. Like, if you're going to rebuild, the most valuable player in your roster is Sabonis. And even he's an acquired taste because it would take a certain kind of supporting cast to help elevate him in terms of being a playoff contender, because he can't be your best player. He's a complimentary star, and he's their best player. That kind of sums it up. He's a complimentary star, and he's their best player.
Oh yeah, I still can't imagine how like DeMar felt after that trade, because it's like, well, you left the Bulls so you could come play with De'Aaron Fox, and they trade him to reunite the Bulls and bring in LaVine. I'm like, oh, what's the end game here? Like, at the end of the day with the Kings, they just got to tear down shop and restart at this point. I know it's tough to hear for the Kings, considering that obviously this is a team that is notorious for missing the playoffs for very long stretches. But their only hope to become a consistent playoff team again at this point is you just got to tear it down and start over. Just keep keep the couple young talent that you have, Devin Carter, Keegan Murray. Move off of guys like Dennis Schroeder, Russ. Try to see what you can get maybe for a Sabonis, and just move in a completely new direction. I think that's where that team's at this point.
Agreed.
Hey, to be fair, in the last decade, the Kings are the only team to draft 3 All-NBA level point guards. They don't have any of them anymore, but they drafted 3 of them.
That's funny. Yeah, that's true.
Because Fox, Halliburton, and of course they got Isaiah Thomas back in, I believe it was 2014 or like 2013. So they're insanely good at drafting point guards, and then they just get rid of them right before they break out.
Yeah, like I said, that the Kings are proof that leadership and vision start at the top. Remember, you remember a couple of years ago when Shaq was a member of the Kings, right? Of the management. And even Shaq bounced. So I'm just saying that they got to get their house in order. But in order to get their house in order, they got to tear it down, Brett. You're exactly right. They have to do the hard work, tear it down, accept the fact that this year is going to be about next year.
Absolutely. Hey, we get Orlando Magic basketball tonight facing the Miami Heat. I think Orlando wins, and I think they're going to be a fun team to watch this year.
I like the Magic in this game as well. I think it'll be a competitive game because I think the Magic are still trying to develop some chemistry, obviously with Desmond Bane and the bookend forwards. Look, we both said the key to the Magic season is not just the acquisition of Desmond Bane, it's a healthy Jalen Suggs. If Jalen Suggs is healthy, now you're talking about a title contender.
I still found the discourse around the Magic is kind of funny. Because some guy online was trying to convince everybody that he's like, yeah, the Magic aren't going to be as good as people think because they lost 5 of their 6 best shooters. And I'm like, we're not doing this. Because it's like, okay. And then he sent a picture of, obviously, the 5 of the 6 best shooters. It's like, all right, I don't think they're like losing sleep over losing KCP or Gary Harris. And the funny part is, out of all the shooters that he showed that, Orlando, that left Orlando this year, it's like these are all like 36% or below shooters outside of Caleb Houston, who wasn't playing anyway. So I think some people are just underestimating how much better this depth for the Magic got, because replacing the guy that they lost with guys like Tyus Jones, even a Jace Richardson, Desmond Bane. Yeah, this Orlando Magic team is going to be dangerous, and they're deeper this year.
I agree. And look, I think some people look at numbers and take the numbers and go, these are their best shooters. KCP was an awful shooter last year. Awful. Which is one of the reasons why they were looking to move him anyway. But when they found out they could move him for Desmond Bane, that's a come up. You got a guy who shoots the 3 at an effective level, but more importantly, he can score at all areas of the floor. So how is that not an upgrade? I think the Orlando Magic are going to be better. Are they going to get off to a fast start? I can't predict that. But I think as we get into the deeper parts of the season, they're going to be one of the better teams in the NBA.
It's funny that KCP was almost like the reason that I jumped off the Magic bandwagon of beating the Cavs. It was game one, and they start drawing up 3 plays for CP3 or KCP in a row, and all 3 of them everything just clanking off the rim hard. I'm like, if this is the offense that's going to be surrounding Paulo, then they're just getting smoked by Cleveland, which they still push them to 7. But I think that's maybe the most encouraging thing for them last year is they still push Cleveland to 7 despite non-existent floor spacing around their 2 forwards. And this year now they have the floor spacing, so they have exactly what they need to have at least a solid offense this year. So
agreed.
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to them beating the Miami Heat tonight. Say, hey, Nets Hornets. Said Hornets should be fun. I think they can be a playing team this year. It's possible.
I think the Hornets can be fun because they do have a talented young core. It's just a matter about putting it all together. With the Nets, I think the Nets are going to be an entertaining team. I don't necessarily think they're going to be a good team, but I think they're going to be entertaining. And I joke about it. You and I joke about it. We're like, how many shot attempts per game is Cam Thomas going to put up? We're talking 22, 23. Cam Thomas, he might end up being one of the top 5 scorers in the NBA on a team that probably won't win 20 games.
Oh, yeah. A lot of these young guys are going to be like, so where's our touches? And Cam and MPJ, they're going to be like, if you want to touch, get it off the rim as they're launching their 15th shot of the game.
Right. That's exactly right. You know what, though? Come mid-season, when we start talking about trades and things of nature, a team that people are going to look at to get some acquisitions, it'll be the Nets, because I think Cam Thomas has value in a different role than he projects himself to be. I think Cam Thomas would make a tremendous 6-man for a contender. I think Nicholas Claxton. I think Claxton is he's kind of like the perfect kind of center when you're talking about rim runners for today's NBA. Young guy, gets up and down the floor, gets you 2 to 3 blocks a game, gets that low double-double. You don't have to run any plays for him. I think Claxton has a lot of value as well, too. So, look, I think come trade deadline, I think the Nets will be one of the busier teams in the NBA.
And I completely agree, and they should be. So, I think they need to be one of the busier teams in the NBA for sure. 76ers Celtics, that should be a lot of fun. If Embiid plays like the way that he can, this will be his first, real test. We haven't seen him since last year outside of some preseason work. But if he plays even close to the level that, he should, especially going against a front court of Neemias Queta and Xavier Tillman, I feel like the 76ers should take this one home.
You know what? I think it's a competitive game. I'm going to give the edge to the Sixers because you're right. If Embiid is just playing, even if he's just playing at an all-star level, I think that would create trouble for Boston's front court.
Yeah, and even if you're guys like Maxey, Edgecombe, you can get downhill and attack those centers. And I think that's going to be the biggest key for the Boston Celtics tonight. It's just keep everything in front of you. Don't allow anybody to get downhill and, just completely assault the rim. Because if they allow them to get all the way to the rim all night, they're going to be in some serious trouble.
Agreed. I'm going to pick the Celtics to win. I think that they're going to be scrappy this year. I do think that Derek White, if he can stay healthy, I think Derek White is going to have an all-star season.
Fair enough. We'll throw out predictions for one more game real quick, and that would be Spurs Mavericks. That might be the funnest game tonight.
I think you're right. Now you're talking Anthony Davis, Cooper Flagg, Wemby, Fox, and that crew. I'm gonna take the Spurs. I was gonna say Mavericks because AD's healthy. AD could put up 35 and 17, but that would be dependent upon AD have the aggressive mindset to put up 35 and 17. When you're a young team, you don't know what you don't know. I think the Spurs will come out, they'll play hard. The Mavericks are a veteran team, but I think the Spurs find a way to get the win.
And I agree with that. I think the lack of spacing that they're having is going to come back to haunt them. It sounds like they are running the Flag, PJ Washington, Clay, AD, Lively lineup, and there's just not a lot of ball handling. In fact, the Mavs are talking about making PJ Washington a primary ball handler, and I promise that does not go as well as you think it does. So I think the Spurs win, and I think this lineup that they're trying to run right now is not going to last very long.
They've got the same problems that the Rockets have. They don't have natural playmakers. Flag is a good playmaker, but he's primarily a scorer. Same for AD. Washington is the third or fourth option, really as a scorer, but he's thrust into a different role right now because they're kind of out of place. They're a little disjointed. I think I think the Mavs will be good on defense. I think they're going to struggle at offense because I don't think they have enough shooting and shot creation.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that's going to haunt them tonight, especially going against a talent like Wemby. If you can't space him away from the rim and you just let him just camp at the rim all game, it's going to be tough because now you're going to be forced into a lot of, mid-ranges. And I just don't like the way that this is shaping up for the Dallas Mavericks. So,
are we doing parlays? I'm going to take the over that Wemby gets at least 3 blocks.
Me too. Dude, if you told me over 4, I still might take that. I think he's gonna have a monster game on the defensive end tonight.
I agree.
That being said, Mo, that is all the time we have for today. Anything you want to add before we get up on out of here?
No, appreciate the chat, the energy. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you check out Brett and I on Thursday night, 9:00 for the N1 podcast. And we'll see you guys soon. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can check us out next Monday. We got our new start time for the Meaty Boys podcast, and we have a very special guest, the owner and promoter of Brew City Wrestling, Frankie DeFalco. He's spent some time wrestling in the WWF, WCW, has wrestled a ton of guys, big names that guys like Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan. Just a lot of big names that he's wrestled, and now obviously he runs his own wrestling promotion, and he's a trainer at training the next generation of wrestlers. So there should be a lot of interesting talking points. So make sure to check us out on Monday. That being said, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your night.